Welcome to another edition of Akoben, the Warhorn, with your host, Junious Ricardo Stanton. Akoben is an Ndinkra word and symbol of the Akan people in Ghana, West Africa. It is a uniquely carved horn that makes a distinct sound that the traditional villagers use to call for alertness, preparation, assembly, and in extreme cases, mobilization. We sound the Akoben to call to alertness, to become aware, and to offer alternative perspectives, provide insightful commentary, and introduce you to folks who are beyond the radar and the scope of the corporatist media. Today we're going to look at mental illness as an outgrowth of the COVID mitigation response, and it's entitled, Is It Possible? Quote, recent evidence suggests that people who are kept in isolation and quarantine experience significant levels of anxiety, anger, confusion, and stress. At large, all of the studies that have examined the psychological disorders during the COVID-19 pandemic have reported that the affected individuals showed several symptoms of mental trauma, such as emotional distress, depression, stress, mood swings, irritability, insomnia, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, post-traumatic stress, and anger, unquote. Prevalence of stress, anxiety, depression among the general population during the COVID-19 pandemic. A systemic review and meta-analysis by N. Salari, A. Far Hussainini, R. A. Jelani, https://10.1186/S129922020-00589. My theory is the rash of violence sweeping our nation, especially in the urban areas, the rise of substance abuse, and the spike in mental health crises are directly related to the global COVID-19 media blitz and the resulting mitigation policies, quote unquote. The violence is not so much from the COVID-19 infection itself, because for the most part, the recovery rates are high and the fatality rates were low for people who were in good health with no serious comorbidities. The violence is a maladaptive response to the chronic stress from the media fear-mongering and economic disruptions caused by the lockdowns. Most people were adversely impacted by their own thoughts and feelings, not the virus. The feeling of not being in control of one's life, the economic uncertainty and hardship, the frustration and the anger from the arbitrary and dictatorial policies enacted by elected officials and bureaucrats that go against both common sense and all previous epidemic mitigation modalities. Is it possible this was deliberately designed and done to induce fear, panic, hysteria, and psychosis in the population? If so, why? My conclusion is yes. It was done to induce psychosis, a zombie cult-like belief in a virus that was nowhere near as lethal and contagious as we were being told that it was. We were set up so we would demand and readily accept Big Pharma's vaccines, the old problem, reaction, solution model, order out of chaos. For 15 months, people were locked in medical martial law, subjected to non-stop doses of daily doom and gloom, skyrocketing case number reports that were written to infer these cases, quote unquote, were actual infections, when in fact those case numbers were based on extremely unreliable tests not designed to be diagnostic or predictive tools. Algorithm modeling was also used, but their numbers were way out of line with the facts and postulated by folks whose track record for accuracy was abysmally low. World leaders and public health officials believed these Chicken Little reports and arbitrarily enacted draconian policies that did nothing to flatten the curve but devastated the economies of their countries. Is it possible they merely made a mistake, that they acted in error or used poor judgment? No, there is no way over 90 world leaders all acted in error. Notice how the global media demonized national leaders and governments who didn't go along with the lockdown martial law policies. Governments like Belarus, Sweden, Tanzania, Finland, and Brazil were mocked and ridiculed, even though several had lower infections than the lockdown countries. The misanthropes and megalomaniacs, the global elite, have been plotting and planning pandemic scenarios like this for decades. See https://thefreedomarticles.com/9 simulations, drills, laws prepared for the coronavirus. Also, www.activistpost.com/2021/06/paving the way for RonaScam.html. But despite their plans, gaming, and tabletop scenarios, world leaders appeared totally unprepared and out of it. Why? How and why did this take them by surprise when they game planned it in all of 2019, for example? www.theatlantic.com/politics/archive/2020/03/pandemic coronavirus United States-Trump CDC. In my view, the surprise was all part of the charade and con. Why would our leaders do something like that? They did it to acquire unfettered power, to enrich themselves and re-engineer society in ways that could not otherwise be done absent an existential threat like COVID-19. There's too much money to be made, and there are too many commingling complementary agendas being furthered to think this is all a mistake or that the oligarchs were caught totally off guard. The psychopathic global elites needed an event to launch their agendas on a dumbed down, traumatized, fear-distracted, and paralyzed populace. Why? Hysterical people are in fight-flight mode. They are disorganized and discombobulated, easily manipulated. Quote, a wide range of psychological outcomes have been observed during the virus outbreak at individual, community, national, and international levels. At the individual level, people are more likely to experience fear of getting sick or dying, feeling helpless, and being stereotyped by others. The pandemic has had a harmful effect on the public mental health, which can even lead to psychological crisis, unquote. Prevalence of stress, anxiety, depression among general population during the COVID-19 pandemic, a systemic review and meta-analysis by N. Safari, A. Far, Housinian, Far, R.A. Jelani. https://globalization and health.biomedical.com/articles. Panicked people don't think, they react, and in this case, we reacted to stimuli readily provided by the giant media and digital conglomerates that control most of what we see, hear, and read, that are owned and fronted by a handful of investment and banking conglomerates that also own most of the world. https://internationalbusinessguide.org/corporations. Many people refuse to believe there are creatures this evil, this conniving and wicked in the world. Believe it. Human history has shown there are psychopaths and evil doers aplenty. And we need to face that fact that there are evildoers, wicked people, sociopaths, psychopaths, and many of them have gravitated or currently fill leadership positions, whether it's in corporate America, the media, religion, government, or in business. There are people who have no empathy, who love and live to lord it over others, take advantage of them, manipulate them for their own aggrandizement and enrichment. This is true. We see it all over the country. We see it on the world stage. We have to begin to accept this reality and plan our lives accordingly. Meaning, we know there are people who could care less about our health, safety, and welfare. So we have to take full responsibility for it ourselves. Meaning we have to be cognizant and conscious of what we're doing and how we're living. We have to really determine to engage in a lifestyle rather than a death style, or to be self-sufficient and self-determining rather than dumbed down, manipulated sheep to be slaughtered by a handful of billionaire megalomaniacs and psychopaths. We're seeing the collapse of all that we know, and that can be stressful. And so much of the maladaptive responses, meaning the rise in substance abuse, the rise in suicide, the rise in violence directed against self and others that we're seeing, especially in the urban areas. The means and the motives for people doing things that make absolutely no sense. That it reflects a dire situation where people are caught up in a culturally induced psychosis, what I call like a cult mentality, a psychosis that was triggered by the media coverage of this so-called pandemic, when in fact, if you scratch below the media reporting and you do some independent research, you find that the survival rate is almost 98%. People have been misinformed, and people who are in relatively poor health, mental, psychological, and emotional poor health, are subjected to their own compromised immune systems, which is why so many people in the African, Latino, the Native American communities found this to be a lethal condition, because we're simply not healthy. We're not healthy mentally, we're not healthy spiritually, we're not healthy physically. Look at the food that we eat that is controlled by a handful of corporations, how bereft of real nutritious value much of what we eat actually is, and how in this stressful state, instead of trying to move and find solace and comfort, we moved to find relief using illicit and other types of drugs, prescription drugs, opiates, opioids, psychotropic drugs, alcohol, because we were cut off from the social network. We were cut off from our families. We were cut off from doing what we normally do. And we know from a human perspective, disrupting the pattern, disrupting the quote unquote culture, disrupting the folk ways is a very stressful environment. It induces feelings of powerlessness. And when people feel powerless, they don't feel good about themselves. And that in itself triggers all kinds of physiological reactions within our bodies, let alone when we're being constantly bombarded with this fear porn, this negative messaging. And so early on, that's why I wrote and did podcasts on fear not. Don't be afraid. Let your natural defenses protect you and defend you. Do whatever you can to promote a strengthened, healthy, vigorous, and robust immune system. Don't allow the elites and their media to drag you down, to trick you, and to depress you. Think powerful thoughts about just how successful and powerful you really are. Think about ways that you can enhance your immune system and improve your health. Get proper and adequate rest. Hydrate yourself with water as opposed to soft drinks, beer, and alcohol. Seek out nutritious meals. Do what you know is best. Find out, do some research. This is the information age. There's no reason for us not to know. The challenge is to find out and do the research for ourselves so that we're not misinformed or disinformed about what's going on. And so that's why we sound the Akoben, to encourage you to be your best and greatest self, to be self-reliant, meaning not refer to people or defer to people who don't have our best interests at heart. Like Bob Marley says, fear not for atomic energy, because no one but ourselves can free our minds. And so if we want to truly redeem ourselves and truly transform ourselves from this state of maladaptive responses, caught up in the problem, reaction, solution paradigm, we have to think for ourselves, and we have to do what's in our best interest and be around people who are thinking likewise, so that we do the greatest good for the greatest number of people for the longest amount of time. So as we close out, as always, engage in mental decolonization. Free your mind, the rest will follow. And this is Junious Ricardo Stanton wishing each and every one of you love, peace, health, prosperity, wisdom, power, but most of all, courage. The courage to find meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in your life so that you evolve into all that the Creator intends for you to be, and your life manifests magnificently in a divine partnership with the Creator so that you make a fabulous contribution to the collective. Stay strong, stay well. Peace.